I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher. I'm the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association. And as always, it's my pleasure to welcome you to one of our webinars. And today, a very important subject, one that's talked about a lot, but we're going to dig a lot below the surface here and talking more about sustainability and how it not only enhances efficiencies in your business, but how you can cut costs, how it can boost your brand's reputation, and really build customer loyalty, all of those things, how it can really become part of your DNA and part of your culture. We've got a couple of great guests with us. We're going to get to them in just a second. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping here and let you know a couple of things. First of all, if you would like to ask a question during this broadcast, down in the bottom, you'll see a Q&A tab. Click that, put your question there. We'll do our best to get to it. And this webinar, as with all of ours, are in our library at myhfa.org/webinar. That way you can get this on demand. You can play it in front of your team, whatever you want to, do, however you want to use it. That's what it's there for. And so many of our members utilize them in that way. So please do that. And always, I'd like to thank Synchrony. They are our thought leader sponsors here at HFA for our education programs, these webinars being one of them. All right, got that out of the way. Let me introduce you to who we have here joining us today. We have Emily McGarvey. She's the Director of Sustainability for Room and Board. They're a top 100 retailer based up in the Minneapolis area, but they've got stores all over. And let me tell you something. They wear their corporate social responsibilities and their sustainability efforts on their sleeve. It's on their website. They live by it. She's going to have a lot to really talk to us about today. So Emily, thank you for being here. And another company that's very much cut from that same cloth is Tepperman's up in Canada. We have David Blake joining us. He's the Sustainable Facilities Manager for Tepperman's. And it's interesting, if you go to their website and click on sustainability, you'll see a picture of one of their stores and the entire roof is nothing but solar. So it's interesting, but I really appreciate you being here because that is truly a guiding principle at Tepperman's. And then finally, we have Jillian Dew joining us. She's a senior account manager for Freight Club. They are a shipping company, but very much committed to sustainability efforts and really lowering the carbon footprint. And they've also got some interesting programs that we're going to talk about that I think are very much on the cutting edge. So thank you all for joining us. Appreciate the three of you being here. I think, I always like to start out with somewhat of a general question, just as kind of the icebreaker to get us going here. But do me the favor, and Emily, we'll start with you. What are some of, if you can just give us just the bullet points real quick of what are the sustainability efforts that you're doing at Room and Board? What are just some of the things so we kind of know what tools are in your toolbox?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, Mark. It's great to be here.
Pleasure.
So at Room and Board, we really have our framework set out in products, people, and planet. And so it's kind of our 3 Ps in terms of how we organize all the work that we're doing. So within products, a couple of things we're working on 100% sustainably sourcing all of our wood, and we're at about 85% now. In the people world, we are committed to 90% of our products being made by American artisans and craftspeople. We also donate 2% of our total profits to national nonprofits. And on the Better Planet side of things, we have a goal of 100% renewable electricity. So those are just some of the things that we do, but we always organize it in products, people, and planet.
The triple bottom line, is that what I heard it's called? I like that.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, David, what about Tepperman's?
Well, Tepperman's sustainability really starts from the top down. Andrew Tepperman, we're a 98-year-old family, third-generation family-run business. Andrew is probably the greatest provider of knowledge and articles for me to read all about sustainability. It's part of one of our guiding principles as an organization. We focus most of our energies on waste diversion, energy reduction. As you already alluded to, Mark, we have our first successful renewable energy project, and it won't be our last because we understand there's multiple values in investing in renewable energy technology. Where it's focused in our supply chain, it's focused on all aspects of the environment and throughout our organization. It is, as you alluded to, it is one of the guiding principles of Tepperman's.
Awesome. Appreciate that very, very much. And you mentioned supply chain, et cetera. And Jillian, I mean, from your all standpoint, I mean, you're talking about it from, right in the thick of the supply chain with freight, hauling and shipping, et cetera. What are some of the things that Freight Club's doing?
Great, thanks, Mark.
Mhm.
Yeah, Freight Club focuses on furniture delivery as well. So that's our wheelhouse, and we recognize that we're part of an industry that's pretty dirty. So we have three main sustainability initiatives. The first is we work with One Tree Planted. And that came about back in 2021 when we saw the devastating wildfires in California, where so many of our furniture vendor partners are based and our customers are there. And so we started to work with One Tree Planted, and since 2021 we've planted over 50,000 trees across the US. And just to sort of take it down, we actually have one client who's planted the equivalent of 8 football fields worth of trees since in the last 3 years. So that's a big forest. So we're just starting, but we're pretty proud of that. The next is we work with Habitat for Humanity. Our sister company is online retailer Synax. And so we all know there's a big challenge around what do you do with products if you can't return them. So we've donated. So last year we donated furniture, and we ended up helping over 2,400 families across the US, and it had an economic impact of over $240,000. Rather than going to landfills, it can actually help. And then the next piece that I'm quite involved in right now is building out returns programs to better support particularly e-commerce dropship. So we're in a legacy industry of shipping and logistics and then furniture, and our processes haven't quite kept up with where the industry is going.
Let me ask you, all three of you, I'll throw this out and whoever wants to jump in first, because before we go any further, in talking about that, Jillian, it makes me think of reverse logistics, and how much is that playing a role for all of you in your sustainability efforts, or is it? I don't know, but Emily, I see you nodding. Is that something that is part of your program there, and making sure? And if you wouldn't mind, if you want to define reverse logistics, you probably would do it better than I would. But anyway.
Well, absolutely. And it has a environmental impact. There's also financial impact, because when customers return a furniture product, it can be really difficult. How do you get that out of the customer's home, back it through the supply chain to a warehouse, and then where does it go from there? Things like that. So Room and Board has a pretty robust reverse logistics, because we do have really great customer service with our delivery and distribution folks. And so we are able to, if someone does return something, we are able to take that back. And then we have kind of a pretty robust process of what do we do with that piece of furniture now? Can it go back to good stock and be resold again? And if it can't, we have 2 outlet stores throughout the country, so it can go to the outlet store. If it can't go to the outlet store, can we repair it? And then can it be donated? Can it be recycled? So we kind of have to go through the list, and we want to keep it at its highest value. So any way we can keep it in its original form and still, like Jillian said, even be donated, go to Habitat for Humanity so someone can use it again. That's really what's most important. But the more we can find a way to resell that product as it is, that's a huge financial impact, not just environmental.
100%. David, what about you?
Well, I think Emily touched on most of the points, right? From our perspective, is we have when we have bring customer product back, if product we have sold to them comes back, we have a robust system of evaluating whether it can go back to new stock. We have literally 200 yards from where I'm sitting, we have a team of people whose responsibility is to evaluate whether or not it can go into our as is. We also have outlets here in our location in London, as well as in our location in Windsor. So that product can go there. We too partner with Habitat for Humanity, because we also bring back, when we sell new appliances, we bring back old appliances and we donate all of those to Habitat to help to support their restore initiatives, right? So it's not really a reverse logistics in that sense, but we pride ourselves on our white glove delivery service, that we're going to leave no waste behind, leave no old furniture behind, and find a location for that, whether it's through Habitat, whether it's through as is, whether it's through donation to different organizations. We have a company here, a local charity, who takes used mattresses that are in good quality shape and then uses those in low income housing, transitionary housing environments as well. So there's lots of places for us to move the product to.
And I think that, I would hope that anybody listening to this has a plan in their business, large or small, for reverse logistics, how to handle them, because it's not just about bringing it back, but it's then now it's like you talk about all the avenues about how you can manage it, et cetera. Huge piece of this sustainability issue is that, and that's just a part of doing business, right? You've got to manage that in any way you can. Jillian, I want to let you jump in a little bit as well with the reverse logistics situation and how that's a critical piece of any sustainability program.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, as you know, especially speaking with Emily and Dave, because you guys have sophisticated built out programs. But many of the clients who we work with at Freight Club, because we work with everybody from small retailers all the way up to vendors. So there's a variety of different size of business. And I think it's very challenging for maybe newer businesses or, you know, smaller businesses. How are they going to do this? And who's the right carrier partner? We were even challenged to find carriers within our network who could actually pick up from a customer's home and then bring it back to a facility. I have one client, they're a large furniture vendor who is selling products through a big box online website, and they were using the online seller's carrier, and that carrier was not able to facilitate a residential return. So this product was being canceled and then donated and destroyed and sent to landfills. So by moving to a different carrier, you know, and I think this is what we have to do, is we've got to find the right partners who are ready to disrupt. And so we're finding that with technology partners or with carriers, so that you can then, you know, pick those pieces up and put them back into supply chain to be resold or reused. There's an awful lot of product that, because of processes today, are not even being facilitated to be brought back. And I think that's the first step. So we're trying to do a multi-phase process, and we're in phase one right now. And then the next step is, so I think you have to do it little bit by bit, but it is a challenge within the industry.
Okay, I mean, I hear you saying it's not the rule, it's a little bit more of the exception still. And I mean, I think this is a great place to start. I wasn't anticipating that my mentioning of reverse logistics would get us here, but this is really a critical piece. I already have a question that came in that I'd like to throw out, and I'll let anybody jump in. It said, what would be the top preferred method of furniture returns for sellers? What's the most sustainable choice? Does that make sense? Anybody want to jump in on that? Dave, Emily, want to?
I think it's good to get a little bit more clarity. The first piece that we were able to identify, the easiest sort of entry point, so to speak, is if the product is already packaged and ready to be returned. So it's almost like a decision tree. So if there's an item that for whatever reason the customer decided they did not want, and it is packaged and ready for freight, then that is the easiest first step to be able to bring it back and then get it back into the supply chain to sell. If the product is not packaged for delivery, that is another step.
Another step in the process. Okay, well, maybe we'll get a little clarification on that question. But let me ask you this, and Emily, I'm not going to put you guys in the spot and say give us the exact dollars and cents here, but as I hear you guys talk about this and trying to maximize, not only returning items in a way that is friendly, if you will, and not sending things to the dump, if you will. Is there appreciable cost that can be, as far as revenue that can be derived from handling these things in the right way? I mean, is there a monetary basis for really doing this besides just being a good corporate citizen?
Well, so I think, I'm not sure if I can get these numbers exactly correct, but I think returns in the furniture industry overall is somewhere between 8 and 10%. So that's just a huge financial hit. So however you're able to resell or move that product in a way that can recoup some of those costs, I think is a pretty big deal and pretty big motivator for anyone to be able to do that. So, we have people in our DCs that are able to do some like minor repairs, which can then get it to a point where it can be resold. And maybe that goes to the outlet. And Dave, you may have something similar as well. But whatever we can do to keep that product still a product and not waste is financially huge.
So Dave, it's not just about doing it is about doing the right thing, but it's also about the fact that there is a bottom line to this that we don't want to ignore, right? That there is something that you can put a dollar figure on that makes sense for this kind of a reverse logistics program.
Well, Absolutely. And frankly, I'll do a little bit of a segue myself. There's a bottom line for all kinds of aspects of waste diversion, right? So it's not just about the reverse logistics and the product. Is what's the material that the product was packaged in, and how are you managing that as well, right? And, Emily's right. We have the people who bring the product back, who get it. Is it good stock? Is it as is stock? Is it a repack? What happens to be? Is it a return to vendor? Vendor claim. Like, there's all those aspects of things that we want to try to minimize our financial exposure to that, right? So we have pretty rigorous processes that we follow to try to minimize that, as we go. But we try to think about things right from the get-go of the delivery process, right? Because when we deliver a couch to your home, we leave no waste behind. It doesn't even come in a package, right? We unpack it before we put it onto a truck. So, so when our reverse logistics is when they want it to come back from the house, it's on one of our trucks that goes out and picks it up and brings it back, right? So that's how we sort of manage that. And we try to do that within the whole dispatched delivery system to sort of minimize that expense to us.
Appreciate that, by the way. So, I mean, obviously we know there's a great reason to do it, and there is this planning process that goes through. And you said waste diversion. So I'm trying to and I guess that's you guys take the packaging with you. Is that what you're calling waste diversion? Define that for me, because I want to make sure that I understand it, and then I'd love to hear more from Emily and from Jillian about waste diversion and how that fits into this project and program.
Well, it's about diverting wasted, mostly from packaging, from going to the landfill, right? So
Okay.
we have thousands of tons of waste that we manage every day. So behind me, if you can see on the camera, right, you can see a block of styrofoam and you can see a picture frame. So that styrofoam would be styrofoam that would be around an appliance or a television. We have a cold press densifier in London and in Windsor. So we densify that at a 60-to-1 ratio. So they become blocks, heavy blocks of styrofoam. We deal with a broker who looks and takes that out to the market. And then that gets pelletized and can turn into picture frames, or can turn into insulation, right? I also have like these little containers here, which you can't see on camera, but we do work in the plastics as well. So mattress bags, material bags, they also get pelletized and turned into new plastic products as well. So we're trying to find ways of keeping it out of waste, because from a math perspective, from an economics perspective, every ton that we send to the landfill costs us money. So every ton that we don't send to the landfill saves us money. And if we can actually get money for that, which we can in some instances, in some plastics we can, that's even better for us, right? So we really have a pretty strong, rigorous approach. We have a target of trying to divert 80% of our waste by 2025. Q4 of last year, we hit 75% for the first time. So we're on that path. But as I said to Andrew Tepperman the other day, it's like a weight loss program, right? If I want to lose 30 pounds, the first 20 pounds are easy. The next 5 pounds are tough. The last 5 pounds are a challenge. And we're now in that challenge phase to get to that 80% number.
Can you, Emily, can you talk a little bit about room and board and how in your waste diversion and what that looks like in that recyclability that Dave was talking about?
Yeah, like to Dave's point, we've got the products, which we were talking about, and then the other piece is the packaging. And so similar, Room and Board has, 90% of what we sell is delivered. And so therefore we take everything, all the packaging out of their home, the customer's home, and about 10% goes through UPS. So if you're ordering a pillow or something that can be flat packed. So when we do take all that waste, all that packaging waste, a lot of what we have is cardboard and then all sorts of different types of plastic. That's the main of what we have. So we bale the cardboard and we can sell that. And then the plastics, in the last couple of years, we've actually started working with Trex, which is a composite decking company, and they're looking for all the plastic they can get. And so it has any type of stretch to it, they're able to take it. And so we've been baling our plastics and then selling that to Trex as well. So we have an option for all of our plastic. It doesn't matter if it's clear, white, any type of color, they'll be able to take all of that and then we can sell it to them. So we have some of our DCs that are set up for all the tools in their toolbox is kind of what we say. Like they have donation partners, they have recyclability partners, they are set up on Trex for plastic, they're set up with a cardboard supplier. When they're set up with all the different tools in the toolbox, they're at about 90 to 95% diversion. And so we have a 75% goal of diversion of operational waste by 2025, and we've been hitting consistently about 80% diversion this year. So at the end of the year, we'll hopefully have that as our final number. But when we have certain distribution centers that have all the tools in their toolbox, they're getting much closer to 90 and 95%. And then the financials is exactly what Dave was saying. We're seeing our trash expense cut in half. And then we're seeing revenue come in from cardboard and from plastics. And then what that has done is it has funded, if there's any type of cost related to donation or to recyclability, because there's some places that can recycle, like especially products. We can offset the cost and come out either even or ahead. So the economics of it are there. It's just finding the right partners for all the different waste streams, whether it may be product or packaging.
Yeah, those are some stunning numbers. Jillian, what would you like to add to this conversation about diversion?
Yeah, I was wowed to be to be honest from both Emily.
I saw you. I knew you wanted to react.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fantastic numbers, and I'm thinking because we're in slightly different parts of the business. So our focus so much is on e-commerce. That dirty word of e-commerce, where we know there are so many returns. Again, the processes have not kept up. And so, your numbers, Emily, are bang on with what I have for returns in the furniture industry. We're seeing anything from 3 to 12, and it's landing around 8. So 8% with many of our clients who are selling through online are dealing with 8% returns. And again, once you get into a white glove delivery, our carriers are going in, they're taking the product into the customer's home, and they're removing all of the packaging. That's part of the service. So then what happens when that item needs to be returned? And if it isn't packaged, then many carriers won't take it. So this is sort of phase 2 of the program that, Freight Club's building out now, is working with carriers who can do a blanket wrap. So they can pick it up from the customer's home, blanket wrap it, bring it back to one of their warehouses where they can then reuse the material that might have been used from another carrier. So we're actually working with a partner right now to build out this phase 2. And then for us, we have a technology platform. So we need to make sure that it's as easy as possible for clients to be able to book a return. I mean, it might sound, sort of pretty obvious, but if you're not able to make this return process easy, then I think that's where people don't adopt it. It just looks too big of a problem. It's just so much easier to donate it or go to a landfill or just get rid of it instead of working through the problem. And that's actually why I was so interested in participating today, is to really learn some best practices of what different people are doing and how can we now adopt it into the carrier world.
And Dave, let me ask you, do you guys do your own deliveries? Do you have your own trucks and et cetera, or do you contract out?
It's a combination of two.
Combination of both.
There's direct delivery. There's 3PLs as well.
So do you both? I'll throw this out to you and to Emily. So just so we're understanding here, do you, if you have any contractual, do you insist upon this type of system? Because what I hear Jillian saying is that not all carriers are set up certain ways. And so I'm trying to provide a takeaway for any business out there that even if you don't have your own trucks, if you're working with a contractor, is it important, if you want to claim that you're a sustainable business, you've got to have sustainable partners. So my question there is that something that you can insist upon and make that one of the reasons that you decide upon one contractor versus another?
Well, yeah, speaking from our perspective, we want the customer delivery experience to be, agnostic as to whether or not as a Tepperman's employee or a 3PL. Like, so whatever 3PLs we work with, they must follow our white glove approach to doing that, right? We have, they have the same targets from a completion rate perspective, from return on trucks perspective. They have the same numbers as what our team would have, right? That's our expectation. If we had a 3PL that didn't follow that, they wouldn't be with us for long.
Okay.
And
Emily?
we have a very, very similar room and board has both our own drivers and trucks as well as contract, and that you will see have the same white glove exceptional service for a return and delivery. It won't matter who is driving the truck.
So Jillian, would you suggest then that if there is a retailer out there, this is a question they should be asking their potential contracted delivery service about these things so that they can tie themselves, if you will, to a sustainable company?
I think so. I really do. I mean, we had so many clients asking us, how do we do returns? Because it's such a problem that's sort of forcing us to try and figure out solutions. So if more and more people start asking carriers, because not every carrier is doing this. So if more and more people ask about it, it was like the old days of organic food. If enough people ask for organic food, we were going to have more in the supermarket. So I think absolutely people have to ask the carriers, and we have to come up with the different solutions and ideas and share them as to, this is working here. Can we learn from you? Like, can we adopt it over there?
Gotcha. And I think it's a good takeaway for anybody out there that wants to, maintain that as part of their corporate, social responsibilities, et cetera, is to make sure that you're working with contractors that share that. Let's get into some questions. There were some really good ones that came in prior to the webinar today that I want to ask you. And can anybody quantify what percentage of customers that you think that come in your door to buy that make their decision based upon the fact that you have sustainability practices, carry some sustainability products, et cetera? Is there any data on that, or is it all anecdotal? I guess, Emily, I'll start with you.
I think there is data out there for this. I don't know if I know it exactly off the top of my head, but I know that people are always going to buy a sofa, for instance, based on the quality, the look, the color, the size. Those things in the decision tree are never going to change, regardless of what product you're talking about. But I think there are people that will make sure that sustainability is absolutely core to what they're buying. And there's a lot of other people that kind of have what we call the and one. So they're looking for something, it meets all those initial criteria, and they're like, oh, and this was made in the US. That makes me feel really good about it. I love that. Or, oh, and this is made with sustainable wood. I love that. It's that and one that makes them feel really good about the purchase when they've gone through the initial purchase tree of decision making. So I know that there's data out there, but I don't necessarily have it at the top of my head.
Well, but I appreciate that, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but I just wanted to ask it, Dave. Then I guess let me kind of continue what Emily just said. Let me ask you this question: do you believe that this sustainability question is, while it might not be the primary, because Emily's right, people come in looking for something that's going to fit in their room, et cetera, but is it a scale tipper, as I like to call it? Is it one of those things that can be that, I'm between two things? Is it something that can tip toward a purchase? Is it something that you guys are seeing, or is that a little bit, am I putting too much into it?
I think we are seeing it. Again, I'm not sure we have the data, or if it is, I'm not sure what it says. I think what we see is, Canadian made, North American made, those pieces resonate. A few anecdotal pieces, I get requests from salespeople on store floors and said, can you send me one of those blocks of pressed styrofoam? Because I want to be able to talk to my customers about that, right? So again, it's a little anecdotal, but it seems that it's important for their, conversation pieces, right? We do have a solar installation. Do we have the data that we can tell people about that, particularly at that location, which we do, and they share that information regularly with their customers. The hard part, it's on the roof, so people don't really see it. But again, it's it may be a little more anecdotal than actual data, but the conversations are actually happening.
The other
So
thing I might
yeah,
add to that
sure.
is
Oh, sorry.
the other thing I might add is I think sustainability is also very personal to people. So if someone is concerned about chemicals, for instance, they might be looking for a Green Guard Gold certified upholstery fabric. If they are concerned about labor practices and how people are treated, they might be looking for a North American made, US made, Canadian made. If they're
Right.
concerned about resources and materials and climate change, they might be looking for sustainably sourced wood or recycled content in their upholstery fabrics. So sustainability can be deeply personal and it can mean many different things to different people. So when you're thinking at a customer level, it's almost finding out what's important to them and then directing them to the product that makes the most sense to them.
Fair. Still listening, doing a good job of listening to the customer. Jillian, what were you going to say?
Yeah, and actually just adding to what Emily said, so my marketing department actually gave me a whole load of different stats and facts
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I'm happy to share links later. So I think what's really interesting is looking at the demographic. We've got a changing demographic and a changing group of people who are coming through who are soon going to be making these larger purchases. And we see that I think it's about 76% of millennials are sustainability is going to be one of those decisions when they make a purchase. They're very interested in the circular economy. They are hyper aware of what's going on in the planet. And so I think, for us, my generation, what have you, to help build this foundation, I think it's really, really important because this next group, they are coming through. And again, we play so much in the online space, which over indexes in that demographic. I think it's really important to get this solved.
Super helpful. And Dave, you made me think about something else here too. I love the fact that you get a call and somebody's requesting one of those items that really talks about how you recycle, how you really divert waste. So how is that at Tepperman's? How is that communicated to staff so that they are communicating it out? How do they include that in what they're in their interactions with customers, et cetera?
So we have our sustainability CSR report that we publish on an annual basis. We have data published on our website for the public to be able to see. We have sustainability newsletters that go out to our teams. There are sustainability committees in each of our stores. So people led, trying to do community engagement pieces as well. So it's a very much a grassroots kind of approach. It's not me sitting in my office and saying you go need to do this. They come to me and say, hey, we would like to try this, or we're doing this. In a lot of instances it starts with we're going ahead and we're doing this, right? So Andrew sends out quarterly updates to the team. There's always something about sustainability in that as well, where our waste diversion numbers are going, our solar generation numbers, energy dashboards. A lot of information is shared throughout the team.
Emily, what about a room and board?
We have some similar things. So we have our website, which also has our impact report that we share annually. That gives a lot of information overall. Then in our intranet, kind of internal resources, there's a lot of resources that we have available that get down to more of the product, the material and vendor level, so that we're able to answer some more detailed questions, because our customer care team that answers the phones and answers questions, they get a lot of really detailed product questions, as well as organizationally, what are we doing with recycling and climate and things like that. But we have some internal resources for both our store staff as well as our customer care teams to be able to answer those more detailed questions. And then beyond that, we have a core orientation that all new staff members go through, and they go through a series of classes. One of those classes is one that I do, and it's all on sustainability. So all of our new staff members coming in have that as part of their foundational training. And then anytime anybody asks me to come to a meeting to share, I always say yes. So next week we have all of our heads of distribution and heads of retail store coming in, and they asked me to speak, and I said absolutely. So I do a lot of just internal talking with groups of people and kind of sharing the same message.
Gotcha. Jillian, I know it's different for a freight company, but in the same respect, how is this communicated to your team as well, or the teams that are out there in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. So for our customers, as we say, we plant trees for every shipment that goes out. We don't charge our clients, we do that. And then within our portal, which is almost like the TMS platform where people can manage their shipping, we have an analytics data called Freight Intel, and there's a little tree counter. So whenever they go in to take a look at their analytics, they can see how many trees that they're planting. We also call this out on our website, on the bills of lading, on the shipping labels. So it gives people the opportunity that, it's a little bit more of a sustainable choice. Internally within the company, even on my signature line, we call that out in the One Tree Planted and the trees, etc. We work with One Tree Planted. We did a couple of tree planting sessions up here in Canada, and then also in the US.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be like a steady. I always talk about this. It has to be a steady drumbeat. I mean, if you're going to live it, it's got to be something that's consistently moving along there. Let me ask you this, and Dave, I'll start with you. This is a great question because it hits the heart of a lot of this. What's the biggest challenge right now for being more sustainable as a retail business? You're doing a lot, but what are the real challenges that y'all are facing right now?
Again, that's a good question. In part, it's getting that last mile from a sustainability perspective, but it's really making sure that we get the message out. I guess that's probably sort of correlating back to your previous question, right? Is making sure that we are, telling the story and getting the story out there. There's always a financial hurdle for doing things sustainability wise, right? Like nothing's free. You have to make those conscious business decisions to invest in technology or solutions, in order to be able to keep getting better. So I think the biggest challenge, making sure that we are doing things fiscally responsibly when we're doing that, but also making sure that our team is, integrated in the process, because I'm not going to be standing by the baler moving cardboard or densifying styrofoam. It's the team. The team are going to be out there, and they're as big a part of our success as anything I can do from my office here in London.
Gotcha. Emily, what about for room and board? What do you think the biggest challenge? I mean, you're checking a lot of the boxes, but what are the biggest challenges?
So I think some of the biggest challenges are where we as a furniture industry don't have a solution yet. So where we have a solution, it's about executing it, right? Making the business case, figuring out the financials, getting, staff and customers to kind of follow the process or to kind of buy into what we're doing, but it's where we don't have a solution yet. So when I think about electric vehicles for delivery trucks, that's just starting to come down the pike, but we don't have any solution for long haul trucks that I'm aware of. So there's still some electrification of distribution that can happen that Jillian can probably tell us more about. But then there's also some more bio-based materials. Like right now for upholstery fabric, we have a lot of polyester. How can we get a bio-based upholstery fabric that has performance without adding a bunch of chemicals? So there's some really cool, innovative things that people are starting to work on, are starting to come forward. But those are some of the biggest challenges, is where I don't feel like we have the answer yet. And so that's kind of the exciting part, is to think in the white space and the innovative space and try to help move some of those things forward.
Fair, appreciate that. And what would you say, Jillian, to that question as far as the challenges? You've talked a little bit about it as far as getting a lot of this across, the board, if you will, to a lot of the other carriers, et cetera. But what are some of the other challenges that are being faced right now under this subject matter?
I mean, the biggest piece that I'm seeing is trying to land the financial cost. That often the cost of picking an item up from going into the returns piece, picking up an item from a customer's home, packaging it, returning it to, the cost involved to bring it back can sometimes be more than what this item is actually worth. So not looking at it as its impact on the environment or the landfill, etc. So I think today it is literally a plus minus going, well, it's going to cost me more to bring it back, therefore just get rid of it, without thinking through what that implication is. So if we can make that cost more palatable, and again, the more people who get involved in it, then that will lower that cost.
So let's tackle this real quick too, and I'm going to do this as a toss up. So whoever wants to jump in, please do, and don't all sit on the sidelines. I will wait you out, I promise. Is so there's a little bit of a skepticism sometimes about, you've talked about, wow, we've cut, like Emily, you talked about, we've cut our trash costs in half because we're doing this, but there's also a huge investment piece to this too. Right. I mean, you've got, Dave, you guys have equipment that, that compacts things. So how do you help a company get over that hurdle? Because there is an investment before you get to the savings. There's investing that's got to be done. So talk now to those other retailers out there. How do you get over that hump? And because you guys have very robust and mature programs, but how do you help somebody get over that hump?
Part of it is making friends with some of your finance team. Because when there's something new and people aren't quite sure how to do that, when you have a partner that wants to help you find the solution, that can sometimes make all the difference. So make friends in finance. Because when you think about solar, like we're putting solar on our headquarters right now, solar actually pencils really well from a financial standpoint, but if you've never done it before, it takes extra effort. And so I feel like there are solutions to these things, but sometimes you need a partner that really wants to help you get across the finish line. Or the other option is the phone a friend, is who is doing it already? How have they figured it out, and learn from them?
I really love that because, you didn't say it, but this is also really the internal politics of a business, right? If you can get the person on the finance side to understand the investment versus this, along with the savings, et cetera. You're right. You need to make sure you have friends down the hallway. Dave, what about you?
Well, I wouldn't say creative accounting, but I think Emily is really sort of hit it on the head, right? Is you can't just look at traditional financial analysis, because there are times when you have to be able to try to quantify that social impact of the work that you're actually going to be doing. Is not just purely about finance, right? We've made investments, and probably the most recent one was the cold press densifier that we put in our location in Windsor. The payback period for that, in the sense of you do it sort of landfill recovery, was going to be decades, right, or more, which nobody's going to make a decision based on that. But you factor in the labor cost avoidance, you factor the transportation cost avoidance, right? Like, a skid of bricks of styrofoam is 4 transport trucks worth of styrofoam. So trying to move that to somewhere, what's the cost associated with that? So you have to, you still may not be able to tip it into the right direction, but certainly you can start to knock those things off, right? And then at the end of the day, if worst comes to worst, when I'm talking to our finance department, I'll just say Andrew thinks this is a good idea. So
right,
so that
and blame the boss. I think that's
that sort of helps in the process as well.
Well, because here's the thing. I mean, look, I it's obvious, but I want to say it anyway. I do think that there's a great deal of integrity on this call. I think that the 3 companies definitely are committed to this, but let's be also honest with the fact that there's a huge promotional impact to this. That there is, and I don't know if that's quantifiable, but Jillian, the fact that you guys wear the tree, the One Tree program, the One Tree Planet program on your sleeve is important to say, yes, we're committed to this, but also there's a promotional piece to this that's important for you to say that to your customers, right? I mean, let's not forget that fact.
No, and that's hence my background as well, and
Yes.
I'm
going to call it shameless, but it's okay. No, I'm teasing.
I live in the Pacific Northwest. We're surrounded by trees.
I
mean, shipping is not it's not a sexy business, it's a dirty business. And so if we can align ourselves with something which is going to help the planet and is a legacy, that was one of the reasons that we wanted to do this. And it resonated with us being a Vancouver based company, even though all our business is in the US. And I think, when I talk to new clients, it's like icing on the cake. We can make sure we can do all these different pieces, but also this is what we stand for. They don't know who we are yet. We're a new business, we might be a new partner for them. So to know that we stand for something like this, I think that just sets us apart a little bit. So that's one of the ways we talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Emily, you know what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not trying to dilute the sincerity of the culture, but we have to realize that as we're trying to convince others as far as how this is important and what some of the returns are, wouldn't you suggest that that's a huge part of the return? Is that promotional part of people, really aligning themselves with your approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a financial standpoint, sustainability should do one of four things. Two of them are financial and two of them are brand reputation. Sustainability should either drive sales or reduce expense, and that's the financial side. Or on the brand reputation side, it should either enhance your brand or mitigate brand risk. If you're doing something that you wouldn't want people to hear you doing, so you should probably not be doing that. But on that upper quadrant of the brand reputation, that's where you can think about, you start from impact, but then when you're doing a whole breadth of things, because there's financial, social, and environmental reasons to do them, then you have to start thinking about, well, which ones do we want to communicate? Because not everybody gets a press release. If you're, if you're baling cardboard, you don't scream that from the rooftops. You have to kind of make some decisions about what makes sense, that aligns with your brand, that aligns with impact, that aligns with what will resonate with your customer to kind of enhance your brand. And so then there absolutely is benefit to that, because you have impactful, real things that you're doing, but you're only going to share a few of them. So, and so it's just figuring out which of the ones do you want to share, and then really leaning into those things.
I have to get to this question, and I'm going to toss it to Dave to start this one, because this is just what you talked about leads into this, which is really an interesting question. It says, how do you carry, in your stores and sell both the sustainable and the more non-sustainable without that coming across as a contradiction, right? So when you wear all of this on your sleeve and then somebody walks in and there's something that clearly can't be necessarily considered to be a really sustainable product, how do you manage that? I say it's a great question. It might be unanswerable, but I think it's a really wonderful question, because it's all about the integrity piece, right? About if you're saying that's what you're about and you can't have that across the board, what do you do?
It's a very difficult question to answer in a lot of ways, right? Because we are seeing growth in the sale of sustainable products. We're seeing growth in the importance of Canadian-based and North American-based products as part of the buying criteria for our customers, right? However, there are still people whose buying criteria is fit, form, and price. And sometimes price at the end of the day will win. Sure. And businesses need to make that decision. Are you prepared to let that person walk out the door? You're there trying to be able to create that lifelong, multi-family, multi-generational relationship with that customer. And sometimes you have to start, at a spot that's not the ideal. It's not the fully reclaimed wood, dining room set. It has some MDF and some, but hopefully eco-composite, wood in it as well, right? But it's certainly it's a balancing act, right? We're in 6 different communities and we're serving, probably a greater population of, more than a few million people in our different communities that we're in, and not everybody's going to lean with sustainability.
100%. I love that. By the way, I've learned one thing about you. As you say, that's almost an answerable question. Then you always give a great answer. So I don't know what you're saying. Jillian, you were going to jump in. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So my previous life, I was actually a buyer for brick and mortar. And so when it came time to choosing products, I think having the sort of the cheap and cheerful, for want of a better phrase, but then also having the better product, it gives you the opportunity when somebody is coming in and taking a look at that product, that you can actually show them that, for a few dollars more, you can support this. This is a better made. This is, you know, this is a better product because of X, Y, Z. If you don't have those two as a comparison, then you're
Right.
always going to stay. So I think the two can live together, and we will be bringing more people over to the more sustainable products that, you know, Emily and Dave focus on.
But Emily, you would agree though that I guess that's kind of part of the quandary though at times is how do you continue to make that branding point when you do have a little bit of a mix and do that. And that's what I loved about the question, is because I don't know that it is truly answerable, but it is one of those things that I think if you're putting yourself forward as a sustainable, committed company, this is one of those hurdles you got to get over. Is this something that resonates with you?
Yeah, I think so. And like Jillian, I was also a buyer in a former life. And we always had good, better, best strategies. And good, better, best meant price, and it meant quality, and it can also mean sustainability. So
Love
everything's on
that.
everything's on a journey, and what was new and innovative today is going to be the default that everybody has tomorrow. And that might be a design trend, or it might be a pricing trend, or it could be a sustainability trend. So I do think that more sustainable and less sustainable products can live together, because it is on a good, better, best spectrum. And we do the same thing with price and quality, and sustainability just fits in there as well.
To me, that might be the biggest takeaway of this whole thing, because you just said, and I'm a very visual thinker, right? So don't think about the sustainable part of your SKUs as sitting out here on an island. You know, I love what you said. They're a part of it. Even Dave kind of led to that as well, is that it's part of an overall conversation. It doesn't mean everybody's going to go that way, but you can still make that very, not just feeling organic, but very authentic with the people coming in, because it's a part of that conversation. I think that's a huge takeaway, and I absolutely love that. We're actually winding down here, which is kind of hard to believe. But let me ask this, and I'm gonna try a toss up again. You guys are a little timid when it comes to my toss ups, and so I'm gonna try one more. Keep it simple. When it comes to the overall picture, what we're talking about and we've talked about a lot of stuff today with reverse logistics and with waste diversion, and we've talked about different things that are out there. What is, and you kind of alluded a little bit to it, Emily, but let me ask everybody, what's new? Is there anything that the folks listening should be thinking about or listening for, that are going to be the next new couple of things that come down the pike that really are about sustainability? And you can take that any direction you want, but what's new that people need to be aware of?
I think the innovative materials when it comes to products, I think, and Dave and I have both talked about this, but this, American made, Canadian made, North American made, like that is really trending, I feel like. And then where do we not have solutions on the operations side, whether that's more sustainable packaging, or whether that's electric vehicles for delivery and for long haul trucks, where those are areas where there's a lot of work happening, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
And let me, I'm going to jump in here. Dave, let me ask you a question that Emily just talked about here. So just finally, would you do me a favor? Because I get it, but I want you to connect the dots for me. The dots between, when we talk about sustainability and regionally made, is that just a more confidence in materials? What is it about that blends those two things together? Because I don't always put those two things directly together.
Well, I think there's probably a few things, right? I think materials certainly would be one. From a environmental sustainability perspective, the shorter amount of distance that the product has to go from creation to the end customer is always a good thing, right?
Okay.
To be able to, provide local community labor support as well, right? Like we're supporting our neighbors, right? Different countries have different legislations about things you need to do, and if you I was in the housing sustainability market, and it used to say that, the building code was the baseline that you had to do so you didn't get thrown in jail, right? There's legislation that says here's what the baseline of you be able to do, but you need to sort of focus on, doing more and trying to focus at home, trying to focus locally. Even when it comes to our waste stuff, we partner with companies in our province. We don't send things over the border any longer. We don't send things overseas. That's an important part of that, because we're employing neighbors as well.
I love that. And thank you, because you said it better than I could have. And I love that, because it's to think about it from the standpoint that, yes, it's great in the US. It's great to say we sell American made, Canada, we sell Canadian made, et cetera. It sounds great from a country pride process, everything. I mean, there's a lot of that supporting local workers, but you said the key thing, the sustainability piece is really the fact that it's coming a shorter distance. You're not, we're not, boosting the carbon footprint of all of the container ships coming over from the Far East. So there's a sustainability, kind of a thread through that I'm glad you pointed that up. And Emily and Jillian, either of you want to jump in on that as well, because that's a really great point, I think, that Dave made.
Well, another way to say, I think what Dave said very well is the way I explain it sometimes, is that every product is a tiny piece of the planet that's made by people, for people, and sold for a profit. So everything we do has a triple bottom line in it, and it has both the environment and people as a part of making that product. And so how those people are treated and how the planet is treated, it flows into the product. And so sustainability to me is about all the good that we do. And it's not necessarily just planet, but it's planet and people.
Love it. Love it. Jillian?
Going back to the original, the question, because of course I can't talk about, US and Canadian made products, but the two pieces that I'm seeing, and we're partnering with some companies who are using electric vehicles, particularly for that final mile part of delivery. It's still challenging. The technology isn't there yet to be able to do nationwide point to point. But I think that's really going to change, and we can already see that with some of our partners. Particularly in larger LTL size, big and bulky, not just parcel, but in larger size pieces. And the other piece that I'm really interested in, again, because of the technology side, is we're working with technology partners today who are trying to figure out how to facilitate the circular economy, so that smaller companies and other clients who aren't as large and robust as Emily and Dave's company are able to participate, that they're able to have these products picked up and then sold through a program, through another website, etc. And these could be damaged, dented, and returned products. So we're seeing that in the market. There's a lot of conversations going on, and some deep pockets investing in how to make this happen.
Well, I'll tell you what, I sure appreciate the three of you really, I think, doing a great job today of not only some terrific takeaways on what you're doing and how to, but also just how this is such an important conversation, and how this is becoming more and more a part of business conversations as well. It's not just a piece of window dressing. It is truly, for Tepperman's, for Room and Board, for Freight Club, it's truly part of your culture. And I think that's critically important. I was just asked the other day, somebody said to me, they said, why are you guys called the North American Home Furnishings Association? And all I'm going to say today is we got Ontario, we got British Columbia, and we've got Minnesota. So we got North America here today. So thank you for proving out the fact that we've got a lot of wonderful members and partners north of the border, as well as here south of the border. I want to thank our guests today. You guys have been great for humoring me in some of my really difficult questions or badly informed questions, whatever you want to call it. I want to thank Dave Blake joining us, Sustainability's Facility Manager for Tepperman's up in the province of Ontario. We thank you so much for joining us, Dave. You were a great sport today to really swing at all my curveballs. I appreciate that. Emily McGarvey, Director of Sustainability for Room and Board. As always, a pleasure to have you in the conversation. And Jillian Dew, Senior Account Manager for Freight Club. We thank you so much for being here. And I think there was just a ton of great takeaways today. As always, I'd like to remind everyone that we wish for you two things: great sales and good health. For all of us here at the Home Furnishings Association, I'm Mark Schumacher. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.